Good morning. So we are going to begin our lesson 23 by looking at our objective. I am super excited to continue to look at fractions with you. I hope that you guys have been watching these, have been taking notes, have been able to complete some of the activities along with the lesson. It's really helpful to understand more about our fractions, what they look like as you guys are taking notes. So draw pictures, draw number lines, whatever you need to do so that you better understand fractions. That being said, make sure you have a notebook, piece of paper, markers, crayons, pencils, whatever you need to take notes while we go through our lesson together. Our objective today is to generate simple equivalent fractions by using visual fraction models and the number line. We are going to start off quickly with a fluency practice. And with our fluency practice, we're just going to find the equivalent fraction using these two squares. Notice how the two squares are the exact same size. So the first rule or direction that we have is to partition the first square into two parts and label the fraction. So on your notebook, I would like for you to draw two squares that look the exact same. And in one square, I would like for you to partition it into two equal parts. Just try your best. And then you label the fraction. So if we have two equal parts, we know that this part is 1/2 and this other part is 1/2. We have two parts. It's one out of two equal parts. Now it asks us to partition the second square into fourths and label the fraction. So I'm going to try my best to cut it in half. Now you can see my lines are not perfect, and that's okay. I'm trying my best. Now we're going to label each of those parts. Now if I have 4 equal parts, each of these are going to be 1/4. So you're going to write 1/4 in each of them. I have one part out of 4 equal parts, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Now, I just followed the second direction. Now the last part, it says to complete the sentence, 1/2 equals how many fourths? So 1/2, now let's use our little highlighter. So 1/2 is equal to how many fourths? 1/2, I see, is equal to 2/4. So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Okay. We are going to move on to our application problem. And with our application problem, we're going to take it slow and we're going to do it together. Our lesson total, as a whole today, is really not very long. We're just reviewing equivalent fractions. We're going to be tackling it just a little bit more together. And our application problem today, we're going to read it. We're then going to work through it slowly. This is once again a time when you need to use your notebook and a piece of paper, or a pencil or something to write down notes. It says that Shannon stood at the end of a 100-meter long soccer field and kicked the ball to her teammate. She kicked it 20 meters. The commentator said she kicked it a quarter of the way down the field. Is that true? If not, what fraction should the commentator have said? Prove your answer by using a number line. Now it says, note, this problem reviews partitioning a whole into equal parts from topic A. So that means from the beginning of our lesson. So we know that the total is 100 meters long, and she kicked it 20 meters. Now, we can break apart 100 into equal parts of 20. Then we'll be able to figure out, did she kick it a quarter way down the field, or is the commentator wrong? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to skip count by 20 to get to 100 to figure out how many times we need to skip count by 20 to get to 100. So on your paper, I need you guys to write down 20, 40, 60, 80, and then 100. Now, how many numbers do I have right here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we skip count by 20 all the way to 100 5 times. So when we're skip counting, when we're going 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, we can see that there are 5 equal parts. I'm going to show you with a number line now. Okay? So what it's asking you is that we have to envision this being 100 meters long, and this is marking each of those meters into 20 meters each. So we have 20, and then we have 20 more is 40, 20 more is 60, 20 more is 80, 20 more is 100. And so when you see it, I'm going to show you, it's a lot easier to visualize with a number line. So on your paper, make sure you draw your number line. Okay, and to mark our beginning, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see I tried my best to make them even. This one is a little bit longer, but just pretend that they're all equal parts. And so if we start here or the end at 100, you know, that's the end, right? And this one is 80, this one is 60, 40, this one's 20. So we know that the beginning is 0. So from 0 to 100, how many equal parts? How many equal parts did we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, one of the things that the commentator says is that she kicked it a quarter of the way down the field. And it's asking you, is that true? Now, what is a quarter? A quarter, if you think about how many quarters does it take to make $1? How many quarters does it make, or do you need to make $1? And a quarter, okay, is 1/4. 1 quarter is 1/4 of $1. You need 4 quarters to make $1. So 1/4 is a quarter. Okay. So did she kick it a quarter of the way down the field? Did she kick it 1/4 of the way down the field? So from 0 to 20 meters, is that 1/4 of the way down the field? So is that true? That is not true. So it says, if not, what fraction should the commentator have said? And so the commentator should have said that she kicked it 1/5 down the field. 1/5 down the field. Okay, so I want to just walk you through this again. We read the question, oops, down the field. Okay, so we read the question and we broke it down by knowing that we're going in sections of 20. So we skip counted by 20 all the way up to 100 to see just how many sections we would need to get to 100. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 shows us that there's going to be 5 equal sections of the field. Those 5 equal sections we can look at as fractions. And so we saw that it would be from 0 to 20 is 1/5 of the field. So if that field was cut up into equal sections, there would be they would be into fifths. And the commentator had said that it was 1/4 of the way down the field. They said it was 1/4. And we just showed that the commentator was wrong. The commentator should have said that it was 1/5 of the way down the field. Okay, I'm going to show you my other drawing. So she did not kick it 1/4 of the way. She kicked it 1/5. The commentator should have said 1/5 of the way. So we can look at our number line like this. We can also draw different pictures to help us figure out how many sections there would be, 5 units of 20 to get to 100. Okay, so with our lesson today, we really are just comparing our different fractions to find equivalent fractions. We are trying to try to figure out equivalent fractions. And so I just wanted to warm up our brains really quick by looking at these 2 different examples of our fraction table. So these are different fractional units. And normally they're in this really long table that I've shown you guys before. And so I did just want to show you all what it might look like with them closer up. And this might help us with comparing. So we're going to first look at our 1/3, our thirds, and our sixths. Okay. If I were to ask you, okay, what is equal to 1/3? If we were to look at sixths, how many sixths are equal to just 1/3? If you look at this line that I'm drawing straight down, you're going to see that 2 sixths equal 1/3. Okay, 1/3, 2 sixths equal 1/3. Okay, now if I were to look at 2/3, okay, if I were to look at 2/3, how many sixths would equal 2/3? So I'm going to draw another straight line down. Okay, now I have to count all of those sixes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 sixths. So 1/3, one of these cubes equals 2 of the sixes. And 2 of the thirds equals 4 of those sixes. These are equivalent fractions. Now, last one, if I were to have 3/3, so all of those thirds cubes, how many sixes does it equal? It would equal 6 sixths. Now the same goes for our fourths and our eighths. Now if I were to ask you, okay, if I have 2 eighths, how many fourths does that equal? How many fourths does that equal? You can see here 2 eighths is going to equal 1/4. Now if I have 6 eighths, how many fourths is that going to equal? So I'm going to count over 6 eighths. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is going to equal how many fourths? 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 fourths. On your paper, I would like for you to figure out on your own, if I had 4 eighths, how many fourths does that equal? I'm going to give you just a moment to figure that out. If I have 4 eighths, how many fourths does that equal? If you wrote down that it equals, I'm sorry, how many fourths does it equal? Yeah, it equals 2 fourths. So 4 eighths would equal 2 fourths. 1, 2. Okay. So today we're going to briefly look at this worksheet. Now normally this would be something you would do on your own on like either Microsoft Teams, or maybe I would send it and you could print it out and work on it on your own. But you're actually going to do a different activity as your activity after our lesson. This I actually wanted us to do together. And so you can write notes. Once again, you can copy exactly what I'm doing on your own workbook. I do want you guys just to see exactly how I'm solving some of these problems. Now, first thing is you need to write your name at the top of your paper. Whenever you guys get papers, I know that is something that some of us forget to do. And I am going to practice dividing by 6. But the first thing it's asking you to do is to skip count by 6. So it is always a good thing to start practicing and continue practicing is skip counting. So we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, 42, 48, 54, and 60. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, and 60. Now, the way you can think about division is it's the opposite of multiplication. So for this very first problem, you can think of it as 6 times what gave you 24. So how many times did you have to skip count by 6 to get to 24? So we can look at that as being 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So 6 times 4 is 24, or 24 divided by 6 equals 4. Okay, so 42 divided by 6. So 6 times what gave us 42? That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 42 divided by 6 equals 7. Now 6 divided by 6 is 1. 36 divided by 6 is, let's count over, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 times 6 is 36, or 36 divided by 6 is 6. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And then they have 42 divided by 6 again, and we already just did that, and 42 divided by 6 is 7. This is something really helpful to keep practicing, especially if you already feel confident in your multiplication facts. Continue practicing your division facts. Now, what you're going to see here are more fraction like tape diagrams that we just looked at. So we previously just looked at something very similar, and so we're looking at it again. And it says to list the fractions that are equal on the fraction strips. I'm going to change my pen color. And so number 1, it says, what is equal to 1/4? What is equal to 1/4? And when we look at that, we can compare it, and we can see that how many 8s are equal to 1/4? We have 2 8s equal to 1/4. If I have 2/4, so I have 1, 2, how many 8s are equal to 2/4? We have 4 8s. If I have 3/4, how many 8s does that equal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 8s. And then if I have all of my fourths, how many 8s does it equal to? If you said 8 8s, you are doing a great job. All right, we're gonna keep going. And this one looks a little bit different. And so I'm gonna spend some time actually breaking this down for you. So it's asking you to say, to write 2 different fractions for the dot on the number line. Write the lines on the number line to write the first fraction. Then divide them into smaller fractions to find an equal fraction. So first you need to figure out, what is this fraction that they have the dot? What is this fraction? And so we can see that there are 1, 2, 3 equal parts. It is on the first line, so that means it is 1/3. Now, one of the things I do want to show you guys, I'm going to go back really quick, is that if you notice for 1/4, to make it an eighth, they cut each of the fourths in half. Notice how they cut each of the fourths in half to make them into smaller fractions. That is exactly what we are going to do. I'm just going to change my color really quick so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And if I were to draw another line in between each of the thirds, I now have a new fraction. How many equal parts do I have? I have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I can see that 1/3 is equal to 1, 2, 2 sixths, because I broke the thirds in half. Let's see if we can do it again. I'm going to use a different color. This is a great time to use different colors. So we're going to talk about our thirds are going to be this pink color. We can see that we have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. So we're talking about thirds again. And we are on, this is 1/3, 2/3. So we are talking about 2/3. Now, using the same color as I did before, right, I'm going to break apart our thirds into a smaller fraction. I'm going to cut each of those in half. Okay. And now instead of having thirds, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. So I once again have sixths. Now, how many 6 until I get to this dot? Okay, and here we can also look at that as being a 6th, okay? So we're going to count over. We're going to go 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, and 4/6. So 4/6 is the same as 2/3. Okay, last one. I'm going to use pink as our first fraction. First, we need to figure out, all right, what are our equal parts? How many equal parts do I have in this first one? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are talking about fourths. Whereas the dot, it is on 1/4. Now, if we take our fourths and cut them in half, so each fourth is going to now be smaller, how many equal parts am I now going to have? I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I am now talking about eighths. And where is our dot? It is on 1/8, 2/8. So 1/4 is the same or equivalent to 2/8. 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. Let's see if you can figure out this word problem, and you are going to be breaking apart these two long rectangles. It says, Vivian and Tatum each have a loaf of bread. Vivian splits hers in 2/4 and eats 2/4. Tatum splits hers into 8ths. How much does she need to eat to equal 2/4? Excuse me. I have really bad allergies, so I apologize. So for Vivian, we are going to make her blue. And for Tatum, we will make her green this time, okay? Now, it says that Vivian splits her loaf, so we'll call this Vivian's loaf, okay? She splits hers into fourths, so try your best to break this apart into fourths. So I have, and the beauty of you doing it at home is you can just erase or try again. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, and I am going to highlight the part that she ate. So it says that she ate 2/4 of her bread. Okay, so I colored in 1/4 and 2/4. That is Vivian. Okay, now with Tatum, okay, Tatum, it tells us that she splits hers into 8ths. So try your best to break yours apart into 8 equal parts. Now, notice how if you were to draw this on your notebook, make sure your two rectangles are perfectly lined up on this. They're the same length and size. Okay, so you're going to notice with 8s, our pieces are going to get a lot smaller. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is Tatum's. To ask you, how much does she need to eat to equal 2/4? So how many pieces does she need to eat to make 2/4? So she would need to eat 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. So we can write that 4/8 is equal to 2/4. You guys got it. So today for your just extra activity, it's going to be finding those equivalent fractions. You guys can do it. I know you can. And I just want to briefly let you guys know just a quick tip on how to log into Microsoft Teams. One of the things I would like for all of you to try is to go onto www.office.com. Once you get there, you'll be able to use the prompt of log in. You are then going to need your student ID, which is that number you use for your username for Clever. So let's say my number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would say type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I need to use the @ sign, students.k12.dc.us. That is your email address. That is what you use as your username to get into Office 365. Then it will ask you to type in a password. Your password is the password you use to log into Clever, so it's your birthday. For example, mine would be 10/23/91. You would type that in and then you'll click log in, and it should bring you to Microsoft Teams and a big platform where you can have emails and all these different things. And Microsoft Teams is purple, so it'll be a purple icon and it'll say Teams. If for some reason you are given a prompt that does not allow you to type in your password, or your password says it doesn't work, please let me know. I've already had a few parents let me know that their students didn't work, because I then can ask the district for some help so you guys can all log in. After you log in, you'll be able to then access some of our assignments and even access our times when we do a virtual classroom. I look forward to learning with you guys the rest of the week, and I hope you all continue to just try your best working through all those problems. Miss you guys.